nerds. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are going to be discussing the 5 books we think should be on your summer TBR, and in a little bit, a sneak peek at our own summer TBRs.
So join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets.
All right, we had to kick off this book with my favorite book of all time. Sorry, Percy Jackson. It back and forth, but I'm obsessed with this book and its series, The Cruel Prince. This book, you'll be in love with both of the leads. You will never meet a more badass, manipulative girl boss than Jude Dort. She is the reason that I love this book so much. So The Cruel Prince is a fantasy series. It deals with elves, but they're the Fae, but it's Elfheim. Anyways, it is a political intrigue plot. There is so much going on in this Fae setting, even though she's mortal. It is so intense. Everyone is morally gray and a little horrible. I love this series so much.
Yeah, so I have it too. I, which Aubrey does not know this, am on chapter 3 of this book. So yes.
Oh my god, I knew it was started. On
Yes, so it is on my TBR. I am starting it. I'm like kind of finishing off another book, but it's so like bland not reading fantasy when you read fantasy all the time. So I was like, and I know this is going to be such a great book. And it's like, I tell people all the time, like, you're going to love it. You just have to read it. So, and I will say, like, the first, like, 3 chapters, Jude's character, like, punches you in the face. Like, she is written so well, I feel. And I mean, like, look how pretty every, like, chapter. And I just think the vibes are so vibey. And I just think that this book, I can tell that it's your favorite book because I already see it happening for myself.
Yeah. And Holly Black's writing style is immaculate. I am obsessed with her writing style. It is the amount of like prosy, like writing as an art form that I want in a book where like I still am completely engaged with the material and the story, and I don't really feel a distance that I feel with some of other prosy books, but I'm still like reading it and going like, that's such a good line. That was such well worded. Jude is amazing. I will never stop talking about her. I am so obsessed. This is I'm recommending this as a summer read because it deals when you're in Elfheim with these courts and everything is a little whimsical and a little twisted and a little wrong, and it is just like such a perfect read. It's a YA, so it's shorter. It's only like 300 some pages, so it's not like a huge fantasy epic, but it still has all of those like fantasy vibes that you just want from a story, and I think would make a perfect summer read. And I just think you should read all of them. So, there's that. What Peyton will be getting into as she continues to read this series, because she's going to love it, I know, and you all will love it as well. There is The Cruel Prince, which is part of the trilogy of The Folk in the Air. The next books are Wicked King and The Queen of Nothing. Then, just came out earlier this year, was The Stolen Heir, which is a sequel series that takes place around 10 years after the events of the Folk of the Air trilogy. And its sequel, which is a duology, so the conclusion to that comes out next January, February in 2024. Prisoner's Throne. I just read A Stolen Heir earlier this month, and I read it in like a week. Like, I just consume Holly Black content. I think I read this book in like 3 days. You get to a point where you're like, what? Like, this book is split into 2 parts, and by the time I got to the end of the first part, I think I read the next part in a day. Like once you got in there, the middle was so good. This is not a slow middle book. This is a like throwing in your face, what the fuck is going on? How is Jude so incredible kind of book.
And that just speaks to her ability to world build like that. And that can be super difficult to like grab an audience's attention like that right away. And it has, like, for someone who's just starting reading it, and my cousin's obsessed with The Cruel Prince. He talks about it all the time, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll read it. Because he's almost done with one of my favorite book series. So I'm like, okay, it's only fair that I read the book that like literally all my friends are talking about.
Yes.
So yes, I definitely think this is a good recommendation. All right, moving on to my first recommendation for this summer that I think you should read is, I don't have the book because I actually listened to it, which I recommend if your audiobook person is listening to it, is Malibu Rising by, of course, none other than Taylor Jenkins Reid. TJR has popped off this year, obviously. She had Daisy Jones and the Six was a huge success, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo will be becoming a Netflix show, movie, I'm not sure yet. So very exciting, and I think Malibu Rising is right up there. It's actually my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book, which I don't think a lot of people would guess right away. It's actually one of the last ones I've read because I was like, I'm Malibu, like, I don't know, like it just didn't, it seemed too glamorous for me. But after reading it, I was like, this is one of my favorite books, and everyone has to read it. So Malibu Rising introduces the Riva family, and there's 4 siblings, Nina, Jay, Hud, and Kit. I forgot their names, so I needed to make sure I had it in front of me. And the basic idea of the story is they live as orphans after their mother dies, but their dad is this like famous rock star named Mick Riva. And so they live a very like poor life in the Malibu, like SoCal area. They like to surf and they do all the beach things, and it's super vibey, and it takes place, I want to say, like 70s. That's usually where most of her stories take place. So think that even if it's not 70s, and maybe they don't even necessarily, like, she doesn't come out and say it, it's very like, it feels very like vintage. Like they use Polaroid cameras and stuff like that. So, but despite Mick, their dad, the like rock star, having all this money, and he lives like right down the street from them, he gives them nothing. They are on their own to survive. Even so, what I like about this book is you have these 4 siblings, and they all are their like own person, and they have good elements and bad elements. Nina, the oldest, is just like, she reminds me so much of my mom. My mom was growing up, just like kind of like being the voice of reason and basically becoming a mother to her 3 other siblings, but also growing up and going through, you know, young adult woman things. So, oh my gosh. And basically the story takes place over a day. There's flashbacks to like their childhood, but the whole idea is that the Rivas are, Nina, they eventually grow up and they all go their own ways, and Nina gets rich, but on her own, which is really interesting. And the whole basis of the book is that they're going to have this huge party, and things happen at the party. A lot of truths are uncovered. Yes, a lot of truths are uncovered, and I listened to this book. I want to buy it, so I have it on my shelf because the front is so beautiful with like the surfboards, and you can see the 4 siblings. But I sped listened to this book because I was like, I remember like vividly being in my laundry room folding laundry and being like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? And yes, so it's like heartbreaking, but then you get the sibling vibes at the same time, which like I can relate to so much, having a big family, and then also, you know, the whole like parent situation. So vibes in general, great book. It's so good. TJ is so good at writing. Yeah, she's so good at writing.
Not knowing anything about the book, you can listen to Malibu by Miley Cyrus because it goes along with the title. And that is what's more summer than Miley Cyrus.
It's such a summer read. It's like I may reread it now. Like I may actually read it. because of the summer vibes. I know. I tell everyone. My mom just listened to Daisy Jones and the Six, and I was like, girl, you need to listen to Malibu Rising. It is so good.
Maybe I feel like I'm gonna read that this summer now. I'll put, because I feel like that would be a nice one to put like between the big fantasies. You know, you always need like the cooler book that's like a little shorter and not huge epic fantasy-ness, even for huge fantasy nerds. So yeah.
And I think that's so important. And I will say, like, out of all, I've read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I've read Daisy Jones the Sixth, and Malibu Rising. And Malibu Rising, like, comes out way on top for me, which is crazy because the other books are getting traction. Yeah. And there's some plot intermixing with Evelyn Hugo and Malibu Rising. Ooh. Just a little bit. So yeah, that's fun.
Exciting.
So, anyways, yeah, read Malibu Rising, and if you do, you need to let me know what you think of it right away.
The next act from me, especially since the prequel show just came out and season 3 is going to come out later this year, is Bridgerton. If this isn't a summer read for you, I don't know what you're doing. Regency, romance, an amazing TV show that goes along with it. These are, like we said with Malibu Rising, of being like a cooler book in between things. Like, this is like such an easy, fun read. Okay, so Bridgerton, specifically starting with book 1, The Duke and I, is written by Julia Quinn. This is Daphne's story. What's really cool about the Bridgerton books is that each book, there's a family, the Bridgerton family, and it is 6 siblings, and each book follows a different sibling and tells their love story, which is so fun because everything's in the same universe, and you get to see characters that you had loved come back again and again and again as you see their siblings get their love stories. I have read the first and the second Bridgerton books. I'm reading them with the TV shows, so I'm going to cheat and read Colin's story next, even though publishing the books, the next one is not Antony's, his is season 2, is Benedict's story. But so the first Bridgerton book, I'm getting ahead of myself, is Daphne's story. We see Daphne as coming out to they do like the season, which is like the dating courting season, and all of the British nobility and elite all come to like the center area of London or whatever, and they're called like the Ton. And they have basically like a courting season where everyone's trying to find their match. And Daphne is quickly named Diamond of the Season by the Queen, which means like she's like top shit. And our other main character in this book is Simon, and Simon is the Duke. Who would have guessed? No one. The cover says The Duke and I. But Simon has this like moody, traumatic, like mysterious like backstory and vibe to him. And you get to watch Simon and Daphne, they meet in like the most hilarious way after Daphne has just like punched an old guy in the face that was like trying to hit on her, and they're like hiding the body. It's hilarious. You have to get to it. These characters are so funny. This is such a quick, fast-paced read. It is obviously the TV show is huge with these. Yeah. I will say the TV show is better. And that's not an opinion that I have about a lot of things. But there are some times when the TV show just like hits different, and this is one of those. But the book is still a super fun read. It's really fast-paced, it's witty, it's cute, and it's fun to see the original inspiration if you are obsessed with the TV show like I am.
Yeah, I think that is when we say the TV show is better than the book, I have not read Bridgerton, by the way. I've dabbled in the TV series, and Aubrey's had been. I was like, why is it like this? She's like, it's very camp. It's very like over the top. Like that's. I was like, okay. I was just really confused because like I watched The Crown, and that's like straight like they tried their best to be like exact like replicate of like what that time period was. I was like, why are they like doing these things? And she's like, no, like that's just like the fun of it. It's supposed to be spiffy and fun, and I kind of like that. But you know, when we say that the TV series is better than the book, I mean, think about the vibes of Bridgerton. You're bringing that alive visually.
The music soundtrack of the TV show does so much because if you don't know, Bridgerton, they take modern day songs and they do it as like an orchestra. And that's like the songs you're listening to, which is so fun because they're doing this like they're going to a ball and they're dancing and you're like, wait, I know this song. Yes, this is camp. This is a glass of wine read. Like you want to sit down with some wine and just enjoy a cute drama filled story, TV show or a book. I would recommend both. And I've told Peyton before that we need to have a wine night where we just drink and watch Bridgerton. Because a glass of wine just really enhances the story, you know?
I know. We have to make a date to do that. Well, we definitely will. All right. My next summer book recommendation is my claim to fame with reading, my one and only. This is the book out of high school that got me back into reading. Shout out Mrs. Pallarino. This is what we read together, and that is none other than Delia Owens, Where the Crawdads Sing. This book, y'all. This book is, when I look at this book, I want to cry. This is like my baby. This is like my beginnings. This is where it all started for my adult reading journey. This book is about Kaya, and Kaya is also known as the Marsh Girl. And she has this tumultuous childhood where her mama leaves and her daddy is abusive and she's an outcast and her siblings leave until one day she's on the marsh in her little shack all by herself. But then walks in an important character, Tate. And Tate quickly becomes the love of her life. He helps her learn how to read, and she gets very involved in the marsh life. This is a very prosy book. There's a lot of poetry in it, and it really talks about the natural world and connects it back to Kaya's own life. And this book really shows us how our childhood shapes who we become. So that is the like poetic, sad part of the book. But this is a mystery, which is very exciting. Walk in Chase Andrews. Tate kind of breaks Kaya's heart in a roundabout way, and Chase Andrews walks in right at the right time and sweeps Kaya off her feet until one day Chase Andrews is found dead, lying in the mud. And so, of course, this is pinned on Kaya, and it leads to this whole trial. Taylor Swift wrote a song for the movie, may I add. Yes. So this gets an A+. I will say, like, when people go to read this book, I listened to it first, I read it second. Maybe that helped me. But people said it's slow to start out with, but I also think it's just super poetic. And I think that if you're like just jumping into like a story, you're like, whoa, this is a lot. But trust me, everyone always says I'm right. So it means I'm right, is once you get into the plot line and the mystery starts and the fun begins, oh my gosh, like buckle up. I saw the movie. I went out with all my friends that also read the book. And let me tell you, the movie's amazing. I think Daisy Edgar-Jones was a perfect cast for Kaya. Tate was like perfectly casted. I will say though, hello sunshine, I'm talking to you, Reese. I want to work for your company one day. But that ending was not accurate to what actually happened. So trust me, the movie's great. Even if you've seen the movie, you need to read the book because things are a little bit different in the book. And that little bit of difference is what made this book my favorite book. So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, all the summer vibes. I could go on
Mhm.
forever about this book. It is my favorite, and I think it's the perfect summer read.
Yes, isn't it? It was part of Reese's book club, Reese Witherspoon.
It was one of the first ones too.
Yeah. I just remember, I have not read this book, but I remember sitting in class one day and, you know, the professor is lecturing and all of a sudden beside me, Peyton goes, and like gas or something like that from her phone. And the professor's like, "Are you okay, Peyton?" And it was Peyton getting Where the Crawdads Sings news. What was it? Was it the trailer? Was it Taylor Swift? Or was it?
That was like one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Like I knew this movie was coming out. Okay, I haven't seen any trailers for it or whatever, and I have the IMDb app. Like, side note, I'm a huge film like nerd as well, so like that feeds right into my book nerd energy. So like when your favorite book is becoming a movie, like shit's about to go down. Okay,
Yes.
and so I get an IMDb like push notification, like Where the Crawdads Sing trailer is out now, and I opened Instagram in class. I know it was bad, I shouldn't. And Taylor Swift posted her song, and I was like, oh wait, what? My two favorite things coming together? And so I squealed, I freak out, and our professor, Aubrey, looks at me, he goes, "You good?" And I was like,
Good.
"Yeah, I'm fine." Like, I'm not on my phone, like, watching the crawdads. So, it was so embarrassing. And so, yeah, the minute we got out of class, Aubrey's like, "Yeah, like, I saw that on Instagram earlier today." And I was like, "What? It's been out all day and I didn't know?" So then I watched it right there when I was walking in my car. But yeah, oh my gosh. Something that kind of broke my heart when my English teacher brought up to me in high school, but also I was like, ooh, Delia, is that there is some controversy surrounding this book, and more so Delia Owens, the author of this book.
Yes. And it came out huge when the movie was being made.
Yes. So the story goes that she was in Africa with her husband, and some people were killed. And I think there was poachers. And the idea is that Delia Owens writes such imagery about nature and her love for it. And then she goes to Africa and poachers are murdered. But she like got off like free, like nothing came about it. But it's just like, it makes you think when you're reading this book, like, is this a confession through a book in like a roundabout way?
Because the book is about a murder, and then people are wondering, did this murder perhaps take place?
Yes. So there's that. Have fun. Read the book and then dive more. Like once you read the book, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. Ooh. And then it like kind of makes sense, and you get this like meta feeling where you're like, shit, is this a confessional? Like, this is crazy. So we go way back. This is like 17-year-old Peyton like fangirling. So yeah, Crawdads, it's so good. And I love Kaya's character. When I was reading the book, I was like, my daughter's gonna be named Kaya. Like, I love this character. There's just something so innocent and so sweet, but like so just like heartbreaking about the whole story, and it's so good. You must read it.
All right, y'all. I came decked out today for our last book. This is a joint recommendation from Peyton and I that we need you. We need you to read this summer if you have not read it already. And that is TikTok's favorite, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This book has taken the community by storm. It was published in 2012, and yet it is probably like one of the biggest sellers of every year since 2020. This is such a huge book. This is Sarah J. Maas's Trilogy, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Peyton, tell us about why you love this book.
So, let me just mention here that this is no spoiler. You are in spring, okay? This book is about spring, okay?
Yes.
The main character is so powerful and empowering to me as a woman. Yes, Farrah Archeron. And the thing is, it's like, I read this when I was 19, and in this book, Farrah's 19. I was like, so I'm Farrah. This is amazing. And and so yeah, basically, this book is amazing. This book sets up the scene for a lot of books past, which we would love to talk to you guys about.
Yes.
But
we need to make videos for all of you.
Yeah. Yes, but especially for ACOTAR, it's a story about a girl who, in a world where there's the mortal realm, and then there are fairies. There's Corinthian, this like other world, and there's a wall that separates them. And those humans hate the fairies because they feel like they come and kill normal people just trying to live their lives, and there's this magical wall that separates the two worlds. And our main character, Farrah, one night is hunting for her family, and she kills one of the fairies by accident. And it leads us on this tumultuous line of drama.
Yes, because then this is like the very beginnings of the book. We are not spoiling much here. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And so if you know Beauty and the Beast, then you know that obviously Farrah is going to be taken into this fae world. And so our other main character, Tamlin, our blonde beauty, comes. You don't think he's a blonde beauty at first at all. This like scary wolf creature comes for her and is basically saying that since someone killed a life of one of the fae, then to make it equal, the fae get to take one of the humans, and Farrah gets swept into Tamlin's life and the spring court. All of the fae are divided into all of these different courts, which are so vibey and fun. You have the night court, the day court, the spring court, the autumn court, the summer court, the winter court, the dusk court. No, not the dusk court, the dawn court.
Dawn court, yeah. And don't worry, there's always a map in the front.
Map. All good fantasy books have a map. If it doesn't have a map, is it really a fantasy book?
Yeah, exactly. Cruel Prince has one.
Yes, Cruel Prince has a beautiful map that the map got updated in the Stolen Heir, and it's like more detailed and bigger. Yes, and it's so beautiful.
Just so this is just reference, like if it's a good fantasy book. But my thing is, like, never look too closely at the map.
There's spoilers.
There are spoilers.
No, that couldn't be me. I get a new book, a new fantasy book, and I'm like, okay, here's the map. Let me scrutinize every detail. I'm like, oh, they put the mountains there. Oh, is that a sea creature in the water to give fantasy vibes?
Or is it an actual monster? Yeah. So, anyways, spring vibes. ACOTAR, just like Cruel Prince, you are like, I'm sorry, but you are literally in something called the Spring Court.
Yeah. This is a perfect summer read. It's so vibey. It's very whimsical, at least to start. There's a lot going on. Farrah is learning about this new world. She is falling in love. There's a big like change in the later acts. And it's really intense and good. And if you haven't read it yet, then you probably have everything spoiled from you if you're on TikTok like we are. But you need to read it. This is like a modern day fantasy must read.
And the thing is, it's just like the Cruel Prince. Like, if you want to get into fantasy in any way, pick one.
Yeah.
Like, choose one of these books. Like, I would say, like, pick one of these books, and you'll be fine. And then next thing you know, you're going to be reading fucking, like, Lord of the Rings or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't worry. Like, trust us. Just pick one of these two books. I mean, I am biased and love ACOTAR, but
pick Cruel Prince.
Trust me, like, you're going to love it.
Yes.
You just need to start it.
so many people claim this book as the reason that they got back into reading. Just like Peyton was talking, Where the Crawdads Sings is her book that got her back into reading. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard is the one that got me back into reading, because everyone stops reading in high school because it's horrible. But this is an amazing book to get you back into it. The learning curve is really easy. It's so imagery filled. The characters, Sarah J. Maas's strength is her characters. You're going to love or hate or both all of the characters throughout the series. It's so amazing and such a good read.
All right, we have made it to the part of the podcast that I am super excited for, and that is what we are looking to read this summer. I always say reading books is a hobby and buying books is another hobby. And this past week, I was a little bad and bought a couple books. So now my TBR pile went from this to this. So starting off with a book, I'm about a third of the way through, just because I'm currently reading it. It's going into the spring, summer here. And that is, right now, I'm reading The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I have heard this book come up so much on TikTok, and I really like the cover. So I was like, fine, I could do a little spicy read that's not fantasy-esque, but it takes place in Dreamland, which is obviously Disneyland. It's the whole vibe of the boss versus the employee love idea.
Okay.
So I will say this book is a little cheesy for me right now. Sometimes I read parts and I'm like, okay.
Okay.
What do you mean he doesn't have wings? But yeah, super fun. I mean, so we'll see. I'm curious to see how this is going to go. It does come with a playlist in the front, which is kind of fun. But all right, moving on to the second book. I'm reading two books at the same time right now. Of course, The Cruel Prince, which we already talked about. This is a priority for me in the next month to finish and read. Enjoying this a little bit more than The Fine Print, but I needed to turn off my head a little bit, so that's why I've been crushing through this a little bit more. But yes. Cruel Prince. That is on the summer TBR. We already kind of chatted about it. I'm very excited. I can't believe I haven't read this yet. Next, I just got this book. It's called My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I shouldn't have even tried to say her name.
Absolutely.
Here it is. You know how that goes. So this, I've been seeing this on Jack in the Books. He's a popular booktuber. He reads books kind of like this. And this is a contemporary read about a woman in New York City just living life. And I think that it's just about her ducking through life's obstacles and all that, and I'm going through that right now, and I think this is going to be a great read for me. And I love the cover. It feels very Met, so I would probably see this. So anyway, so there's that. Next book I'm very excited about is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Who's this girl? She is going off the rails here.
Oh my goodness.
Where are these fantasy reads, baby? So this is about friends that are lovers but never really become lovers. And there's video game aspect into it, and they totally nerd out. And I know that the prose in this is supposed to be heart-wrenching. And this has won so many awards, and I'm just really looking forward to reading it. It's a bigger book, but I know once I get into it, I'm going to love it. And this cover is just everything. So there's that. I'm excited for that. I don't know much about it, but
I've seen it on TikTok a lot, and I also have no idea.
Yes. Yeah, all I know is I read, Haley Pham read it, and she was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. And then she's like, wait, I love this book. And it's about just two friends that kind of like each other, but they never really go into it until it's too late, and there's a lot of just crazy stuff happening. All right, back to fantasy.
Yes.
I have One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I attended Yeah. Oh, and she didn't skip on her illustrations, and it's signed. There she is. There's her sig.
So nice.
Yep. So I attended a author meet and greet over Zoom with her. Amazing person. We've talked about the Atlas 6. Her writing is one of a kind. So One for My Enemy is about witches in New York. And each of the boroughs of New York are like different territories for witches, and it talks about our main witch's story, and that's kind of all I know, and that's all I really want to know, because I know this book it's a republished version. When Tor picked her up, she republished it, and it's so beautiful. And she did not lack on the illustrations, people. They are still they are still there. And there's just something magical about the way she writes books. All right. Yes. The next two I do not have with me because they are not out. The first one is coming out May 17th. And I only know this. And I need to talk to Aubrey's husband about this because I know he'll probably want to come with. Is Christopher Paolini's Fractal Noise, which is part of the Fractalverse. Yes.
Who?
To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Yep, so the second book to that series is coming out. And Christopher Paolini is going to be in our area signing the book on May 17th. So I have to talk to Jacob. He's sure.
Gonna lose his mind.
Yeah, I know. Robert, my boyfriend, will go with me, so I'm probably going to pull Aubrey and Jacob to come with me. That's going to be exciting. I think it'd be cool to meet him and get him to sign the book, because I read that. That was my first fantasy read of last year that got me back into sci-fi fantasy. And I was like, so we have to take this opportunity that he's going to be here in Pennsylvania, and we can go meet him. And then get Fractal Noise. So that's going to be exciting. And then this is long-winded. My last book of the summer that I'm hoping to get to, and I know I'll get to, is A Soul of Blood and Ash, which is from Blood and Ash's 5th book, which is coming out in July.
A Soul of Ash and Blood. I have already pre-ordered it. It is also on my TBR. You stole that one from me.
If it's not on your TBR, what are you doing this summer? Mixed. I'm sure a lot of people, mixed feelings all around. But I'm excited. She already announced the next book, so that's exciting as well. That is the TBR follow-up post-summer to see how far I got.
Yeah, flashback the end of summer, and it's no, I didn't read any of it.
I buy 5 other books and read those instead, probably is what's going to end up happening, but yeah.
I know. So moving into mine, the first one I have is also obviously A Soul of Ash and Blood. It is not the one I wanted. It's not the next book in the series that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of the prequel from Blood and Ash series. If you know, Flesh and Fire.
Sarah.
But I am excited to read it because I have to continue on, and I do really like this world and these characters. The last one was a little rough. This one is completely from a different viewpoint character. So that's exciting to see. We'll see how it goes. But the next one on my list is the beautiful A Tress and the Emerald Sea. This is one of Brandon Sanderson's secret project books, which means that this is a $200, $300 book that I'm holding in my hand because she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous, my guys.
She's so pretty.
So this is leather bound with a bunch of different colors and foils embedded into here. This is the most beautiful book ever. I love the green. It has these illustrations on the inside. It has color. If I take you through this, let me see. Oh,
that is so pretty.
There is colored ink and stuff all throughout here. There's chapter color things. This is a gorgeous, beautiful book. plot-wise, I don't know anything about it. No, that's not true. I listened to, so if you don't know, Brandon Sanderson did a Kickstarter project last year where he said that during COVID, he wrote 4 extra books on top of his publishing schedule. And so there was this huge wave. They're doing a year of Sanderson where you could, people bought in, and every book they get like a merch book at every 4 months or whatever. They get one of the new books. This is one of them. It follows Tress, who is an avid collector of cups, and she has this little romance, and then the guy goes missing or something like that. I'm sorry, it's been a while. I'm just so excited, and it's so pretty. And she's going to go out on an adventure to find him or something like that. Brandon Sanderson wrote this book for his wife, Emily, because she loves romance books. And so he tried really hard to do like a cute, whimsical romance story. And I'm so excited to read it. And she's so beyond pretty.
She's so pretty.
Next I have is the Wicked trilogy, the Wicked Kingdom trilogy. This is its box right there. I honestly don't know much about this series, I'm not gonna lie. I do know that my sister has read them and loved them so much that she had my Baba get me them for my birthday. I know that they are fantasy. I know that they're supposed to be really good, and I know it's a little slow in the beginning, but things are supposed to jump up, and that it's supposed to get a little spicy in the later books. So I'm excited to see how I feel about these books. We'll see if I get to them. My birthday's in November, so I've had them for a hot minute. Another book that I have, which I do not physically have yet because it is not out yet, is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. She has written so many books, including The Violent Delights, Violent Delights, which I haven't read and is on my shelf, and that should be on my TBR, but instead I'm going to put this one on there because this is Chloe Gong's introduction into epic adult fantasy. It is her first adult fantasy book. I am so excited. I have no idea what it's about. I just want to read it. I follow her on TikTok. She's a queen. I love everything she does, and I'm very excited to read an adult fantasy book by her, as well as her other books eventually. I'm a very slow reader. The next book I have, I also don't have, but I do want to read The Hawthorne Legacy, which is the second book in the Inheritance Game trilogy. Peyton and I read The Inheritance Game by surprise a couple episodes ago. We just picked up a random book. It happened to be that one. And I did really enjoy it, and I think that it would be another like good book to put between some of these thicker boys.
Yeah.
Into it was the first one was so fast paced, and I just like I feel like I want to read that one. I'll read it again, and I want to read it sooner rather than later so I don't forget everything that's happened. The next one that I have is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I have read this book 800 times before. You can see my cover is like falling off. It's actually taped on here. But the TV show for Percy Jackson comes out this summer.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of, hopefully. They are releasing so many things, and it's being made by Disney. It is supposed to be like one of the best TV shows ever made. Okay, that's just coming from me. But they are using the technology used for the Mandalorian TV show, and they made that technology even better. So the special effects are supposed to be off the charts. They are making it much more book accurate. They cast actual 12-year-olds. I'm so excited. And so I feel like I just need to read The Lightning Thief again before the TV show comes out. I did just reread the whole series, so I will not be rereading the whole series again, but I'm so obsessed with this. This is my childhood. This is my lifeline. Peyton, you need to read it too before the TV show comes out. You have to. You have to.
Percy Jackson.
I don't make the rules, but like you have to. It's a kid's book. It's a kid's book, so it's not going to take you long, but you are going to love it. And the TV show is coming out, and you have to watch the TV show. And I don't make the rules, but you have to read it, and that is me making the rules. Okay.
I do have my best friend Neva's The Lightning Thief. I have it here. And on the, like, it's a kid read because in the front cover she has like doodles like you do in your little. She's like, this is Neva Mitchell's book, and it's like what you do when you're a kid. So yes, I will read it before the show comes out.
Okay. And my final book that I wanted to talk about, it doesn't even come out this summer, but I put it on the list because I'm just so excited. It comes out in October, is The Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare. It is her new adult fantasy series, and it is not in the Shadowhunters series world. I am like so excited because I know she's going to do an amazing job. I'm so sad that Shadowhunters is quickly ending. There's one trilogy left in the Shadowhunters series, and I'm going to bawl my eyes out when it's over. But I am still very excited for The Sword Catcher when it comes out in October.
All right, that is all the time we have for today.
Yes.
What did you think about our recommendations? What do you think should be on everyone's summer recs this summer? We want to know. Maybe I'll add more to my TBR. And then also, let us know. Our DMs are open. Our comments are open. So let us know, and we will take that into consideration and maybe do an episode on it.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us, and happy reading.